we're going to go to Google Search Console. And from here, you're going to click on Performance. And we want to know the average position. So you're going to click on average position so that it shows that. And then now see on the right, it shows the average position of each of these keywords. And they're just kind of in a random order now. We'll be able to change the order of them. So we want that like key spot of between about position 5 to like 15 or 20. So we don't want to see all the things that we're already showing up first for. We want to look for the things that we could really bump up. So we're going to look for things at 5 or greater. So put greater than 4.9 in the filter. And then you can organize your position from least to greatest. So now we're seeing all of the search terms that we're showing up for 5 in the 5th position or higher. And then when you start looking at the keywords, you're not just going to like pick the first one. Like TSA checklist is not something I'm going to optimize a web page for, because that's, I mean, like even though it's in position 5, it only gets 4 impressions and 0 clicks. And then the context of it is not something that I want people finding my web page from. I don't know what content is even TSA checklist. Like, where is Seattle located? So I have a blog post all about what to do in Seattle for a week. And it's in position 5. But I mean, if you look at the impressions, it's only getting 2 impressions and 0 clicks, because look at the context of it. Where is Seattle located? If somebody is typing that into the search bar, they're not looking for a blog post about how to spend a week in Seattle. They just want to know where it's located. So that is not like a good keyword. So you have to take all these things into context, into consideration when you're choosing a keyword that you want to optimize and boost up. So if you look here, now we're starting to see some with higher impressions and some actual clicks, and they're directly connected to that Seattle blog post. So what to do in Seattle for a week, 1 week Seattle itinerary, 1 week in Seattle, a week in Seattle. These are all good ones, and they're all ranking between like the 5th and 6th range. So if we optimize for these, and I think this is the one I'm going to choose as my primary keyword, a week in Seattle. If we optimize for these, then we could potentially boost this blog post from a 5 or 6 up to like a 4 or a 3, depending on what it's competing against. So we're going to choose this 1 week in Seattle as the primary keyword. And then these other keywords that are related, that are also getting some decent impressions and clicks and in a good position, can be secondary keywords. So they're kind of just like variations on that keyword. So they'll be really pretty easy to incorporate. And then some of them, like week in Seattle, is so close to a week in Seattle, like it's included in it, that like I'm not going to waste my time writing that down. But so I'm making a list now. Like my primary keyword is a week in Seattle, and then I have these other words. Maybe 1 week itinerary is good. 1 week in Seattle spelled out is also good. So these are all good secondary keywords that I can incorporate on my page. But my primary keyword is the one that I'm going to pay the most attention to. And then the other ones I'll just fit in some of the like secondary placements where they fit, like maybe on some images or some H3 headings or within the text. Or just look through a little bit more and see if there's anything else that fits with that article. You can also click on the keyword and it'll bring you to show you the page that it is. Or you can just go to the page and click on the page and it'll show you all the queries that are connected to that page. And so that's another way to search through. And if you don't have a good tracking system, like you don't have SEMrush or something, you can just take a screenshot and see, like what the clicks and impressions and positions are, and just save that to your computer, because you'll be tracking this over a few months. SEO takes time, and so tracking it over a few months is really helpful. I like plugging my keywords into SEMrush because I pay for that, and I have keyword tracking on that, so I get updates on every week how they're doing. But I mean, just taking a screenshot or something is great too. So here's the blog post: 1 week in Seattle. That was one of my secondary keywords. When I look at the URL, it's just tips dash slash Seattle. So it doesn't have the whole keyword week in Seattle or a week in Seattle. So I could potentially change that. Um, but if I do, I really have to know what I'm doing and make sure that I set up some 301 redirects so we don't get any broken links, losing all the traffic that I get from elsewhere. So the title could be changed to A Week in Seattle. I'm not super worried about that. It's close enough. And then we're going to look at the first paragraph. And I notice here that that keyword is not in the first paragraph. So we're going to look for the best place to incorporate that keyword naturally into that first paragraph. And then we're going to look at all the headings. So we've got this transportation, where to stay. Those are like some little subheadings and an intro. And then we've got all the rest of the headings are days of the week, which is not going to help me with my SEO at all. So let's look at the back end of it and see what's going on here. We've got, okay, these are H3 headings, so they could stay that way. And we can add the word Seattle, like transportation in Seattle, where to stay in Seattle. These are heading ones, H1s, and that is not ideal because your title should be the only H1. So we're going to actually change these to H2s, heading 2s, while we're fixing them. And then I also might add like an extra H2 that's like what to do for a week in Seattle, or whatever that that secondary keyword was, as another heading, just like above the days of the week listed with the activities. But for each of these, I'm going to leave the day of the week because I like that it's organized as an itinerary, but then I'm going to add to it after, like by the neighborhood or whatever. So on the back end, we've got the SEO title, which, like we said, we might change to A Week in Seattle, but it's not that big of a deal. It's close enough. And then we've got the meta description. And the meta description is what somebody sees when they search in Google. So that's like the text that pops up. So we want to make sure that's really good, that it includes the keywords, that it's between 150 and 160 characters, and it entices somebody to want to click on it. So images, looks like the file names, Fremont Troll. Okay, so that could include the word Seattle in it. The image alt text is missing, so we want to make sure that we describe what's in the image, and then also include the keyword or secondary keywords into that description where we can. There's some nice captions under the photos, which is nice too, but we want to make sure that we have the alt text. So yeah, we've got a great plan of what to do next. So I know you can do it. Happy optimizing, and I'll talk to you next time.